Our gold section of this financial planning diagram, the four tribes in the gold section of this Craig's perspective, is that I think we'll see more of this as the future of where jobs go for these programs, at least for a while. Robo-advisors and fintech tools, when I look at the world of robo-advisors, I look at Vanguard's robo-advisor and Schwab's robo-advisor, and I also look at, the independents that are still kind of independent, your Betterments and your Acorns. And then I got to even think of the old school E-Trades and things like that. And the reason I bring all these up is all these robo-advisors are, algorithm type advice platforms. We put in our age, our goals, how much we're going to be investing, and there's an algorithm that kind of spits out what asset allocations we should be in. And a robo-advisor doesn't care if you bring $10 to the table or $100,000 to the table, right? That's where we can offer more efficient advice. But that said, every single one of these platforms has a point at which you get to talk to a human. It has a point at which you get to talk to a CFP professional or an equivalent. And this is where I think 5 or 10 years down the road, as robo-advisors march from $2 trillion under management to 20 or 30 trillion under management, we start to see another angle for students in financial planning. Because if you look at Vanguard's robo-advisor, the biggest in the country, you have to say, all right, but when I hit a certain dollar amount, I actually can pick up the phone and talk to a CFP there. So those CFPs come from somewhere. And they usually come from somebody, a program like ours, developing a degree and kind of hitting that market and being trained up in the way that robo-advisor or fintech, or heck, even I'm skipping ahead a little to product distribution, wants to train you. So when I look at this gold area, what I see is the future. I see more and more companies here are beginning to not only get into financial planning, but do it at scale. And that's going to require an awful lot of bodies to keep up with that scale. And that's kind of my take on the robo-advice space, is right now, I don't have any relationships with Betterment, with Wealthfront, but we sure do with Vanguard. And as robo-advisors start consolidating with larger known brokerage firms, wirehouses, and product companies, I think we'll see more and more jobs in that space. And a lot of the spaces here in gold that can scale up.
So the next area, and this is an area that many of these, there are many firms and jobs that fall underneath it. This is one that truly does cover a wide swath of opportunities, the banking, credit union, trust companies. And this can go from more consumer-facing banking, where it is working with consumers on checking and savings accounts, to really high-end investment banking and trust company work. So this is going to be a very institutional environment. Oftentimes, there are going to be very structured ways in which you would move through. Oftentimes, there's going to be significant training as well as significant hurdles to move up in terms of educational attainment or certifications that you have to have. One of the aspects of this area that a lot of students aren't aware of is the trust company world. I was not aware of that till I moved out to where I am, and it turns out my wife now works at a trust company. But trust companies in many ways operate like an RIA. Typically they operate under an AUM or a fee for plan sort of model. But they also will do fiduciary services related to trusts and estates. That is, they can serve as the overseer of, for instance, a disability trust and figuring out when and how it makes sense to distribute money. So this is a component that I was not aware of in the financial planning space until it sort of slapped me in the face when I moved out here. So this is a pretty interesting part of the world for you to get into. The other thing that I would mention is regulation is different. Typically, banks, trusts, and credit unions are going to be regulated at the state level. They're not going to be regulated by the SEC, no matter the size. So there's a little bit of different rules. Most of the other areas that we're talking about, you are incentivized or required to get FINRA licensing exams, but that is not true in this world for the most part. You are going to be facing a different regulatory environment, which means it's helpful for students to understand where they're going so they can focus on the correct preparation path.
Moving to the discount brokerage space, these are very big name companies: Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, TD Ameritrade, E-Trade. Some of them will have branch offices locally, but most of their entry points will be an inbound call center. Inbound call center is not where you're bothering people at dinner time and they swear at you. Inbound is where people call and say, how do I set up a 529 for my grandchildren? How do I set up my own Roth IRA? And then you'll get promoted to higher levels of advice and be able to self-select into different channels that suit you. But there are thousands of jobs across the country with these companies. They offer great salaries, the best benefits you've ever seen in terms of retirement and health. For example, our students at Vanguard and Fidelity put in approximately 4% and get a match of approximately 14% when it's all said and done. The health benefits are amazing. They get maternity leave, paternity leave. They'll pay for in vitro for families that need that, which no companies ever do in their health benefits. What am I missing, Craig?
Well, student loans. A couple of them actually have student loan match programs. And one that I've actually worked with, they're very competitive with one another. And I think that pushes the space to even just such demand for qualified students. And a lot of them want these students right out of college. When you look kind of at that Royal Blue Circle, a lot of folks do better if they come into it in their 40s and 50s. They already have connections, they already know people. That's not the case with this gold area, especially in the discount brokerage, is that, if you go talk to some of these firms, they say, no, we want to train them our way. We want your student to come from college to us. We want to have a GPA requirement, right? That's where you actually start to see GPA matter. I've seen GPA matter in the accounting tax space, and I've also seen it here, where if it's not a 3.5, they don't want to talk to the person. But you start to see, hey, we want to create an employee that gets our culture. And so we want to hire right out of your space for that. I see that happen to me, that this is a huge market for our better students, and it's pushed the bar up for everybody. We have a career day, just like all of y'all have career days. And at our career day, we have two of these firms come, and they have tables and they set up, and there's a line of students, right? And every 15 minutes is filled with a student until the career day's over. And across the room, sometimes you have folks from other spaces and their tables are empty. And so we have conversations afterwards. And the conversation, man, what are they doing over there? They've got students just dying to go. What are they doing that we're not? And believe it or not, I think those types of conversations over time do move the needle and kind of create a better environment for everybody. Just because of the pressure in that space.
And for our students that get hired, we have a lot of students get hired in that space pre-graduation. They pay their college tuition for them, and then once they're done, they pay down their student loans afterwards.
Crazy. Well, that's it. We're all going to go there.
For our program, we have the most placement in discount brokerage and then the RIA and tax RIA space. Out of all these different tracks, those 2 or 3 tracks tend to get the largest percentage of our students.
And kind of pivoting that onto product distribution, where I also see sort of a shift in the world around us. Product distribution, we're creating products, creating mutual funds, we're creating annuity products, we're creating life, or we're distributing it. And some of the mutual companies have gone from, we're going to have a sales force, to we're just going to make the best products, right? And so you've kind of got your Nationwide, your Pacific Life, where the focus isn't really on the reps or the agents, it's more on the products that we're selling. And what we've found is those companies are very interested in saying, hey, we want our internals to be certified financial planners. We want the external wholesaler to be a CFP, to be, even in some cases, the person heading that up, having even more designations than that, and saying, look, these products, we want to attract the RIA space. These products, I want to attract that accounting tax RIA space, as well as the PNC, the wirehouse, and the broker-dealer space. So I need to create a product that's attractive. I need to support a product with folks that can speak the language. And so we're starting to see those mutuals that no longer have a sales force hire financial planning students. And so, this is a great place to find students that can talk the language, that can have a conversation on the phone with an investment advisor, and in high net worth client situations, bring our person in to act as an expert in that space. So we're starting to see that more and more. And again, I think that gold kind of tends towards the future from that end. I just kind of given some parting thoughts on gold. I've said it a couple of times. I really think this sort of becomes a future. I do think it's a scary future, because I think as you have direct to consumer marketing through robo-advice, through fintech, through discount brokerage, and you have direct to consumer advisor models, it does put more pressure on the RIAs, and it does put more pressure on the wirehouses and on the independent franchises. Because if I can go to a company like Vanguard, the largest asset manager in the US, and I can have my own CFPs there, maybe there's less need for CFPs in the RIA space. And that is controversial. But I do worry about the industry 20 years from now when a lot of these large mutual fund companies offer their own advice. It does start to cut out the middleman a bit. So just in closing, the gold space has a lot of opportunity and a lot of great things for our students, and they really do tend to flock to that area.